everybody. Welcome back to Doormat Mom No More podcast. I'm Doormat Mom, and today we have a very special guest who will be talking about children from her daycare in Pennsylvania. I came across Tina Metcalf when she was doing content about estranged adult kids. And she put out a video that really struck me. And it's very funny because she uses some of the verbiage in it that I've created my whole platform around, TikTok and Instagram and whatnot. And she brings a lot of insight from her own personal experiences with her own 7 kids. 7. God bless her. She's a hardy woman. And so I wanted to get her on the program. She recently appeared on Tamron Hall's show discussing, what's going on in daycares and preschools, the misbehavior, the hitting, and I think there is definitely a very strong thread between what's happening in these schools at such young ages and what's happening in our estranged adult child environment, and why both are ballooning. So I'm gonna share this video first, and then we'll bring Tina on. So hang on for a second. Let me add stage.
All right, you got to hear me out. Can we stop letting these grown-ass adult children guilt trip y'all? Gaslight you? Stop it. Just stop. Let me just say something. Hear me out, okay? Hear me out. If you did everything you could, you know damn well you gave them everything you could, you provided for them any way you could. You sacrificed everything possible that you could. And you did for them. And they want to come back at this shit as, oh, I'm so traumatized because I was disciplined. Or I'm so traumatized by blah, 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 blah. Really? Then it's time for you to go on about your life. See ya. There's one thing I've learned about these adult children is they want to be adults, but they want to act like fucking children. They want all the benefits of being adults, but they want to act like fucking children. Parenting doesn't come with a manual. There's no written pages. You learn by trial and error. But an adult child who continues to ask for the love that you didn't provide for them, and they are traumatized by their adulthood or their childhood, can we just say, see ya? Good luck. Let me know what you think in the comments. All right, you got to hear me out.
So she puts it right out there, doesn't she? I love that about her. So it's so funny because she speaks in another another video about being a doormat, and she actually calls, and this is what I did in my initial video, ungrateful little bastards. And I did that in my initial video. And man, was I skewered for that. But that actually landed me on the map with what I'm doing with in the estranged parent community. So, and she's right. That continuous trauma that hits you back in the face every time you turn around and try to have a conversation with these adult kids, it gets old after a while, and it gets impossible to get past in any one conversation. So I'm going to bring her on, and we're going to have a little chat. I think it's going to be pretty riveting. So, hello.
Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Thank you for agreeing to come on. Honestly, what you say, one of the things I love about you is you do put it out there. you put it out there, you say what's on your mind, you have life experience in it on a number of different levels. And a lot of what you're saying is so very true, and what so many estranged parents are experiencing, with regards to being served up the orders of today, which they need to then provide and serve it back to exactly the way they are demanding it gets served back to them. They're living in some world that you've already said you don't live in. I certainly don't live in. But then again, like, how is it that this came to be? Like, what is happening in their environment that they think they can make such demands on parents who have given them their love, the support, the financial resources, the consideration, the space to grow, the space to make mistakes, the space to have conversations? What's going on? What do you think is going on?
I think it started. Okay, I was raised in what I'm going to say, a militant type of home. I was disciplined. I was, if you did something wrong, there was a consequence. And there was you knew if you did something wrong, there was a consequence. And then we turned around as parents, and we didn't quite swing the pendulum the entire way. We gave them rules, we gave them boundaries, but we also gave in. We also enabled this behavior. And I feel like, they wanted it to continue. And they don't understand that, okay, once you turn 18 and you become an adult, that's going to stop. We're closing the pocketbook, we're closing the wallet. We will do what we can do to help you succeed, and we'll be there to support you, but that's not enough for them. They want more. They want
Right.
more. And then you got 23, 24-year-old kids who haven't found their way because we enabled this behavior and it's continued. And when we say no more, they get estranged, they get mad, they get pissed off. You're terrible, you traumatized me, you disciplined me, we didn't let you go run the roads and make bad mistakes when you were under our care. And now that we are not allowing this behavior to continue, we're the bad people. As soon as we said no more, we're done. And sometimes I've even seen where they've said, okay, no more, we're done, and then allowed them to come back. And then when they come back in, it's the same domino effect over again. As soon as you say no more, they're off and running again. And you're the bad person.
Right. I think we're mentoring fragility in our kids. And I think, but the problem that we're seeing too is when you're taking a stand as a parent in this environment, that's become the environment to raise kids in, right? So when you go into the schools and whatnot, that's being expressed in a myriad of different ways. When you're reading something, you go to the news, right? That's being expressed in a myriad. When you go to a therapist's office, that's being definitely expressed. Social media is expressed. So this whole environment is wrapped around creating fragile kids. So then you're the one parent, or one of very few parents, or the only one in your particular community that says, no, this is not right, this is not the way it is. What happens, and I've noticed this, is the child, the adult child, says, no, you're wrong because everyone else is doing it this way.
Right.
I need you to do it this way. And even when you say, I'm not doing it this way, you still end up estranged because they're telling you, yes, you are. So even when you haven't raised that child in that type of environment, once they get a taste of that, that just like snowballs. And then you really are, quote unquote, being abusive. Right? Have you seen that? Because I've seen that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So it's like, how do you cycle back from this, this outgrowth of honestly a type of narrative and parenting that is not only destroying families, but destroying the people themselves, the adult kids themselves, and setting them up to create and perpetuate it in their own households without even realizing it, because they think they're doing the right thing.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
we
yeah.
know
They definitely don't see outside any box. They're not standing outside the box looking in. They don't, it's like they can't comprehend what they've done because
Right.
they don't think they've done anything to themselves. It's like a liar who lies consistently, eventually believes their lies. And that's where these grown children have gotten to. And they have no concept of reality anymore. And that's where the parent most of the time is going to say, no, we're done.
Right.
We're done.
Right.
And then the parent looks bad because the parent's always supposed to be the one there for the child. You can only be there so many times to get gaslit and burned by this child until you've had enough. We're getting to the point in our life where, you want to retire. You want to live out the next few years of your life in peace, and they're causing havoc. And you have to put a stop to it because you got to protect your own mental well-being.
It is so true. And you threw out this when you're 18 years old, you went off on your way, right? But what's interesting is that these kids they hit that 18, right? Or even let's say you want to push it back to 21. All right, you want to do that. Okay, you hit one or the other. Okay, you hit those numbers, and in our world, and because I think I grew up in the same world that you grew up in,
Yes.
we knew that at that time we were now adults. So all of that hand holding, so to speak, all of that, that umbrella that we lived in, that, that protected us. And, we knew that was gone.
Because our parents raised us to be independent. When we were 16, we had jobs.
Right.
So when you became 18 at that time, you were able to enroll in the military. You were off to service. You could do all that, made you an adult. Right. So, okay, we push it back to 21 now. So we're going to give you a few more years to get through college. We've got kids who can't even go to college and be away from home because they're not independent and they don't know how to act on their own.
They don't. And
they don't.
And what's interesting about this then is we have created a system and a situation for these kids where they truly feel that line. Because they don't reach that line, they truly feel that the behavior you exemplified during those younger years needs to carry through. And if it doesn't carry through your entire lives, right?
They don't know how to act.
You are, again, you are toxic. You are turning your back on them. You are, it's always been all about you. No, you've hit the line where you're grown up. And now, if I make it about me, if I make my life now about me with you as the secondary player, that's not wrong. But that's what you just said it. They think you're the bad person.
You're the bad person. You're awful.
Yeah.
I had a parent tell me just last week how upset he was with his mother because she wasn't giving him enough attention when it came time to watch her grandchildren. She just retired from her job. She's around my age and she's raised her kids.
Right.
She doesn't need to be there to hold your hand and make your life easier. She wants to be the fun grandmother. Yeah. She doesn't want to have the child 24/7, and I don't blame her. She's at the age where she wants to sleep in. She should be able to. But he was upset because he can't understand her way of thinking.
Right.
I mean, you're in your 30s, honey. You need to, you knew how I guess you didn't realize what you were getting when you had children. Right. But, you're an adult. Where do you cut that line off?
And that brings up, and it brings up a really good point, and something that is never really talked about. But when your child, your adult child, decides to get married and have kids, all right, no one consults you on what your role is going to be in that. They just, in these cases with these adult kids, they assumed something about you that wasn't what you planned. And because you're not filling that role, then you're being in, because this is a big conversation out there. Absentee boomer grandparents, the horrible grandparents. I'm sure you've seen it, because they're not stepping up, they're not filling in. Like, no one consulted the boomer grandparents how they saw their lives. At what point are we allowed to go back to living our lives with these adults? And if you don't do it that way, their way, then they're going to say, and this is happening, and you know it, because you're dealing with it. I've heard you say it. Grandparents are no longer part of the equation because you're not doing what I told you to do. This is my expectation of you. You're not stepping up. You're not taking, and you're not letting me go to do my thing so that you stay and watch my kids. I'm not going to share my kids with you anymore. I'm not going to, if you don't want this, also, if you don't want this list and follow this list to a T in your home, then you're not watching the kids. You're not.
You're not going to have any contact. Yeah, and they're using them as a pawn, and it's not fair. It's not fair, because we deserve to be grandparents, but we deserve to be grandparents on our terms. And nobody raised my kids for me. I raised my kids myself. And I made accommodations. I was beneficial enough to be a stay-at-home mom, but then when I chose to work, I chose something that I could take my kids with me, because my kids were my responsibility. They weren't anybody else's.
Right. No, I mean, and I think that's very much, and what's interesting is when we were raising our kids, there was much more of a community thought process where, you had a family, people married into the family. All right. They didn't like marry the son per se and, excommunicate him from the family. All right. Or create their son. You married into a family. You understood that your mother-in-law would be a part of your life. Your father-in-law would be a part of your life. And there was a cohesion there, whether or not you knew that you were marrying into something larger, and you were bringing a whole new unit, and people needed to respect that unit, but you were part of something. Now that's not happening. They're just separating themselves outside the unit, and yet they want to dictate to the unit what it is that they should be, how they should be participating. And
I feel that this is probably part of the cause of our high divorce rate we have in this country. I think so. Is because if they don't get their way, and they don't think that the mother-in-law or the father-in-law is fitting into what their plan was, they just leave.
Right.
There's no commitment. There's no communication. They don't have the understanding of it anymore. It's like we've lost the common sense.
Yeah. We've lost the foundational elements of the family, and we've replaced
the respect. The respect. Yep. It's just not there. And then it flows over to what they're teaching their kids. And then again, that's what we're seeing in the classrooms today, is the children that don't understand no. Well, they're a product of their environment, because their parents don't understand no.
Right. That's a good point. They don't understand a lot. They're going into the schools, and you were mentioning the delays, the delays in basically everything, the delays. I mean, their kids are showing up. They're not potty trained at, by 5 years old. All right.
But they're dumbing their kid. We're dumbing our kids down.
We are.
An infant was usually, should be crawling by 6 months. Now they're saying, okay, by a year. Yeah. Our kids were walking at a year. We've dumbed it down for them, and we're not doing them any justice.
Right. And under the guise of, everything is evolving so quickly, and we're also technologically and intellectually expanding. We're so much further along. And yet ultimately these kids can't add. They cannot add at 16 years old. They can't add. They
But
can't
they
do
can turn an
that.
iPhone on. They can turn an iPhone on. They can fix an iPhone for you. They
Yeah.
know how to find that app that they want to be on, but they
Yeah.
don't know how to use paper and pencil and do a math problem.
Yeah.
They just don't.
No,
It's
they don't.
almost uncomprehendable.
Right.
It's been crazy to watch what over the last 20 years of owning the daycare of the decline in just the comprehension of these children.
Right. Right. And, I would say if anything looks like abuse, I'd say that's abuse. I'd say when you dumb a society down, that's abuse. That's where the real abuse is happening. It's
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
it's not saying no to them.
We're
It's
not teaching him. We're not raising children that are going to be a productive product in society.
no, we're not.
No.
And
Mm-mm.
when we're looking at other countries who are, we can't keep up. We're not going to be able to keep up,
No.
and we're just not. And it's very, very sad to like bring a child in this world and want to give. That's why I think a lot of people are homeschooling. All of the issues that you've been describing and that you're having in your own classroom, the
Yeah.
hitting as well, the misbehavior, it's like they're emotionally charged all the time. And their intellect, their ability to reason, their ability to logic, their ability to see consequence,
And that all starts. That has to start as an infant.
right.
We are not. We are not starting that at the infancy age. These parents are waking up at 3 years old and they're like, oh, okay, well, we're going to start disciplining little Johnny today. And then they start, and little Johnny gives them backlash, and then they quit. Well, he won.
Right.
It should start from day one. And we should stop having kids just because society tells you should have a child. Having a
Right.
child is a full-time job.
It is.
And it seems now that it never ends until the parents ending it. But it's sad. It's
Yeah.
sad.
I think that's what we're seeing. The parent has to end the childhood. And it's very difficult to do when there's an expectation that they're going to they can behave like, they can have like an adult body,
Mm-hmm.
but they're still behaving like children, but they
Mm-hmm.
think they're adults. It's like the perpetual teenager. They just don't
They,
go around. They're
yeah.
teenagers.
Mm-hmm. They think they go from 18 to 40, and they have all that experience, and they think that us parents, we don't know what we're talking about.
Right.
And when
And
we try to explain to them, or then if they don't like what you say, it's over.
yeah, it's a really hard dynamic for so many parents, and who are dealing with it all the time, and eventually end up being either forced or electing to go estranged because there's only so much of it. It's interesting because I had Cheryl Droney. She was a licensed clinical social worker on the last podcast, and she brought up a very good point, which I don't think that it's even like considered in many ways. When you're 20 and you're going through the emotional turmoil of dealing with children or teenagers, or not even like if you're 30, right? Let's say it, and you've got a teenager. Let's say you have a teenager or young. You can deal with stress. You can deal with that much more easily. You're equipped. Your mental state, your emotional state, your physical state. You're much more equipped, right? Put that same person after years of constant stress, years, and with it elevating into the high school years, raising their children, right? And it's elevating, and you're constantly bucking up against this narrative, this psychology, this crazy. And when you get into your late 50s, early 60s, if that continues, there's a point where parents physically,
Can't do
it
it.
doesn't mean they don't want to. It means physically they cannot do it. And then it becomes not a matter of, well, you're choosing yourself, so to speak, because this happens. You're choosing you over me.
Right.
I have no choice at this point.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I am physically incapable. And somewhere inside you, there's a little voice inside you saying, you continue this, you're going to drop dead, and that's a real thing. And but the kids don't. The estranged adult kids or the adult kids, they don't see it that way, and they don't want to see it that way. They just want to keep pushing. And it's crazy, but it's the real truth. So when you're seeing a 60-year-old person who's now like looking at life and saying, I've worked all these years, raised my kids, I'm ready to go on and enjoy my life. I want to spend time with my grandkids. They're not going to become my responsibilities. You have every right to see that. And the backlash from your adult kids could very well be killing your parents, the ones who were, and it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, because you're adding an additional stress to them, and at their age, sometimes their bodies just they just can't do it. I mean, I always made the comment that if these kids came out as teenagers, nobody would have any children.
That's very true. That's really true. I mean, teenagers are really hard. No one can prepare them.
And everybody says, "Oh my gosh, having an infant's so hard. I'm up at night." Yeah, well, you have no clue what you're in for. The hard years are to come. The hard years are ahead.
And they are the first.
And now they don't end at 18. They don't end at that high school graduation anymore. They're not ending at the college graduation. They're not ending until you decide to end it, and then you have to be told that you were abusive and that you traumatized them by disciplining them and them having chores and expectations and setting boundaries and having rules. You're the bad person.
Right. That's the trauma.
That's the trauma.
Parenting is a trauma. It's just the overall parenting job.
And when I was on the show with Dr. Matea, she brought up a point. We were talking out in the back, and she said that she had a client in her office, and the mother was with the client because he had an issue at his job, and the mom had called the job and wanted to know why he had been written up. Why are we not letting that responsibility be on that child? It is not the parent's responsibility, so it's insane to me. How some of these parents are completely enabling and consistently enabling these adult children.
No, and I think there's a war right now going on. You see it in social media, but there is a war going on between this gentle parenting and the authoritarian parenting. And they went in the authoritarian, more of an authoritarian parent, which sounds like they're that alone sounds abusive, right? When you say authority, but authority is actually what a child needs, and that's called a leader. That's someone that you want to follow. That's the authority.
And your child will thrive on that.
Right.
Your child will thrive on having rules and boundaries, and you will create an independent person who will then transfer into an independent young adult.
Unless, and I'm going to say unless there, I agree 100% with you for the most part, unless they become one of those kids that falls in with the other side and believes that, then goes in the teenage years and says, no, you're like, my friends' parents are doing this and you're doing this, and no, you're wrong, you're bad, right? And just because of the group they're running with. And I firmly do believe that you can have however many children, and they're going to be some kids, when you give a lot and you are a certain type of parent, they grow up well and they're appreciative. And then there are other kids that have more of a you take the same thing, give them the same thing, and their hands are back out in 2 seconds. And it's really dependent upon the personality, the environment that they live, what they come to the world with.
Right.
Because I've seen it.
Yeah. And
So,
you don't know, like, you can raise them up until, let's say, 18, all the same way.
right,
And you can, as a parent, have no way of making a prediction on which way that tree is going to fall out once they're a young adult. You
right,
have no control over that. You
right,
just you don't know. You can only hope what you taught them in their younger years is going to develop into their adult years
right.
and follow over into them raising their own children.
Right. Right. I mean, and you can see the difference. You can see the difference between kids that have grown up with more of an authoritarian parenting style for the most part, outside of the group I just, spoke about. And then you
Mhm.
can see the group that's, the gentle parenting style where, you have to explain to the child, every 2 seconds, not, as you put it, kick the seat in front of you on an airplane. I mean, because,
They're a product of their environment. A lot of these things that we are seeing is a learned behavior.
right,
It's not something that's in there, it's a learned behavior.
right,
And they're a product of their environment. They're learning this somewhere.
right,
But you have parents that are in denial that they happen to be the ones that are teaching.
right.
They are their biggest child. They're the biggest advocate. They're teaching their child this behavior.
Right. Right. And I honestly have to tell you, I think it's making the world a harder place to live in. I
Oh,
honestly, when I
100%.
look at people, how many times do you hear, and I hate hearing this, but I can't negate it. How many times do you hear the phrase, I hate people? I hate people. I have so many people tell me that people that have been positive for the longest time, they hate people. They've just grown to hate people. Well, why is that? Because people have just as much capacity to be enjoyable and and supportive and helpful and to be around as they do to be nudges, so to speak. It's because of the environment. We were raising up people to be, I think, sloppy. You look at it in their dress. They're sloppy in their character. They're sloppy in their couture. they're sloppy in their learning. They're sloppy and adding value, even if it's the kid that has the chore of taking out the garbage and where you sign, and every time you have to remind that kid because you've made them depend on your reminder. There's so much sloppiness. People overstep. They they have no manners.
I have to tell you, my youngest is adopted.
Right.
And we've had her since she was an infant, and she's now 10 years old. So she's now getting to the age where she wants to go and, spend the day at a friend's house and all this. And my 23-year-old, my last biological child, looked at me the other day and she said, "Are you really going to allow her to go to the friend's house?" And I was like, "Because you don't know her. They're parents." And I said, "Well, I'm going to go to the friend's house." I said, she plays on our soccer team. I'm going to go, see where she lives. I'm going to go, talk to the parents and all this. And she's like, "You still do that stuff?" Yeah. And I hope that you will still do that with your child. Do you think I'm going to let your 10-year-old sister go to somebody's house that I don't know? And she's like, "Oh, I thought that was like a thing of the past. I didn't think you were really." No, I'm still that parent. I'm still that parent that needs to know where my child is, what she's doing, who she's around, and what kind of environment she's going to be in. That's
Yeah.
my responsibility as a parent. And she's like, "Oh, I just thought that was something you just did with me." No, honey. Whether you're in your 30s, you're in your 20s, and mom raised you however long ago, it still doesn't change. That's still my responsibility as a parent to make sure my child is in a safe environment.
Absolutely.
And I don't want her around, I need to know like what this child is if she's going to be an influence on your sister.
Yes. 100%.
It's my responsibility. Yeah.
But how many kids how many parents are not like you? They'll just let them go, even though they hear all the warnings, even though
a
they
lot.
feared it, right?
They think it's never going to happen to them. It's
No,
never going to happen to me.
no,
hmm hmm
no.
Well, it
That,
can, and it will.
oh, it will. And
Yeah.
it's sad when, because you can't come back from that the same person. You can't, that
Nope.
you can't come back from that,
Mm-mm.
So, let's talk about another thing you brought up the other day, which I really love that you did this. You said that children were not ever prepared to be raised on a diet of unhealthy food and constant tablet or stimulation from devices and whatnot. You said, I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing. That's what you said. And
Yes.
it made me think to myself, how right is she? Because we were designed to go outside, trek,
Sunlight.
discover
Sunlight.
sunlight.
But
Yes,
vitamin D is one of the freest things we can have.
right.
And I see these young children that their skin looks like you can see through it.
Yeah.
I always tell even my daughters, I tell my daughters, yes, I want you to use sunscreen on the kids when they're out, but let them go out. Let them get that vitamin D. Let
Right.
them start to get some sun and then apply the sunscreen.
That's what I do.
They need that.
Yeah.
You can have a deficiency. So we're creating a deficiency in our kids by putting them on the couch and not letting them out. I know at the daycare, the kids hate, despise outside time.
That's wild.
It is
Seriously?
insane. It is insane. They do not want to go outside. And especially the school age kids, they despise. Why do we have to go outside? We don't want to go outside. And once you get them outside, well, then they have to go to the bathroom or they need a drink because they don't know how to be out in the sun. They don't like it.
That is.
We used to go outside and play all the time. I'd get in trouble because I didn't come home when the street light came on, But like these kids don't know how to play. They have no imagination.
Right.
We're feeding them nothing but processed foods. I
Right.
mean, we're seeing these Lunchables. We're not seeing, I love when a parent sends in leftovers.
Right.
But we're not seeing that. We're seeing everything's prepackaged and all this. And I understand that, sometimes we'll do prepackaged stuff because we have children with allergies. I get that. But
Right.
everything, meats, those Lunchable meats are so processed. They're
Right.
good for months in that container. How can that be good for your gut? What is
Yep.
these processed foods doing? And the red dye. Oh my gosh, you can see a difference in a child who has red dye at AM snack within 45 minutes.
Isn't
That child will
true?
do it. It's insane. It's insane the how the dyes are affecting the children.
Yeah.
And then the sugar. The sugar.
Right.
You'll have a parent who allows no sugar, and then you'll have a parent who doesn't mind the sugar, and you can see a huge difference in the children. And it's sad because we're not cooking at home. We're not making homemade meals. Everything's coming out of a box.
Yeah.
You get a freezer, you get something out of a freezer that has an expiration date of in 3 years.
Well, I think all that goes back to the psychology of easy, right? Everything right now is easy. We've made life so easy that
We feed our kids in the car. My
Yeah.
biggest complaint is for my infants is we don't use high chairs anymore. Our parents don't want to use high chairs anymore. They let the kids graze. Kids do not know how to sit down and eat a home cooked meal. They graze. They literally graze. The parent will tear it up, lay it on the table or on the plate, and the kid will come back and get it whenever they want. And it's grazing. We don't teach our children that we eat when we're hungry. They eat all the time. And it's usually a processed food.
So, so how's that going to translate out to their health eventually, right? No, I mean, we look at the, how we even set up our lives. Even if you want to look, easy is fine, but easy can also be a pathway to dissatisfaction when anything doesn't go their way, and it's not easy.
Mhm.
Relationships aren't easy, right? There's
Mhm.
a you want whatever you want is at your fingertips. You don't have to move out of your house. You could literally live in a box and you will survive. Then you
Mhm.
have to, like, now you talk about relationships and why parents, kids are going estranged. Well,
Mhm.
if the relationship isn't easy,
They go.
it's like that, then they leave because that's easy. That's easy. All right. And so it just, everything is just, we've crafted so much easy
Mhm.
that it's destroying our
Mhm.
nation. It's destroying
Mhm.
families. So why save a nation if you don't have families that, that are intact? Who are you saving it for? Because
Right.
if you don't have intact families, I can promise you, as here as I am sitting, the nation will fall, and the nation will fall. You replace parents as the head of the household with social media, or you replace the faith leaders with therapists. And I'm not saying all bad therapists are bad, but probably the majority of therapists and mental health professionals are not doing their jobs correctly.
No, they're
um,
not.
no, no. And
Mm-mm.
then you put your kids in front of them and it makes them worse because now they're even more crazy than when you
Mhm.
started out.
I have a friend of mine who has a child who's around my age. And she's my mom's age, and she's a really good friend of mine. And her son, who's I'm going to be 55, so he's right around my age, went estranged because he didn't like what his mother how his mother was living her life, and he decided that he was going to go to therapy, and the therapist led him away from the situation because she said that the mother was toxic for him.
That's
She
it.
never had the mother's side. She
Nope.
didn't know what the mother had done for this child, had given up, had provided.
Nope.
And all of a sudden, she's telling him that she's toxic.
Right.
I mean, this is a 75-year-old lady who, this is her oldest child who is now you know, has left her life. And, you know, it,
And it's the
no.
fact that he didn't, like, when he was in her care, he was a child. So he only saw a portion of what she was going through raising him, right? So
Hmm.
but yet they extrapolate that out to be they understand the whole thing, and you're the
Oh,
one
yeah. Oh,
wrong.
because they're not wrong. They think that they're right. And the therapist is telling them they're correct.
Right. Right. So adds to the problems that we're seeing
Mhm.
right now across the nation with regards to all of
Mhm.
it. And that's why
And
I
I
see
mean,
it. Yeah.
he has I mean, once this problem came to a head, he had three marriages before that. So where's the problem lie?
Right.
With the mother?
Still, yes. That because
According to him,
always
yeah.
gonna lie with the mother, right?
And according to the therapist.
Yeah. It's always
How unfair.
the mother will always get that. The father will always get that. You ruined me. I can't have relationships. See, look at my three failed relationships. No, just
Right.
look at
But it's always somebody else's fault. It's always somebody else's fault.
yeah.
We're seeing that across the board.
Oh yeah, I mean, you see it on social media. The
Hmm.
trending, comments that are just, and the viciousness of those comments that are just.
Hmm.
I would never have anything come out of my mouth that was that vicious to someone, especially someone I didn't know, that I just assumed I knew what happened in that
Right.
person's
But you're
life.
only hearing one side of the story.
Right. It's crazy what's going on. So yeah, we're definitely at a turning point. I think we are, and whether or not we
Yeah.
can walk this back or not, and I look at it as a, and it's happening a lot in first world countries. When I get outreach from people, I'm not just getting it from the United States. I'm getting it
Right. Right.
the UK. I'm getting it from Germany. I'm getting it from
Hmm.
Ireland. I'm getting it from
Yeah.
Australia, Canada,
Right.
all over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's seeing it.
Hmm. They
you
are.
know, and the stories are just heartbreaking what these kids do. I'm telling you that I hear stories where one day the child's in the life of the parent, the next day the child's gone, and the parent has no idea what happened, no excuse, no like explanation, not even a note left. They're just up and gone. The parents wondering, where's my adult kid? Why isn't my, you know,
Mhm. When
that's
we've done everything, we gave up, we did for them, we ran them to sports, we paid for stuff when we didn't have the money to pay for it. We worked extra hours because we needed to, accommodate them. We made sure they had the shoes that they wanted. We made sure that they did, we did all this for them. And God forbid we asked them to take out the trash, or, because then, oh, you abused me, because we had rules. We lived on a farm. We did chores all day long as a family, and we
right,
did it as a family, but we traumatized you because you had an 11 o'clock curfew.
right,
Really?
right,
Really?
right.
Because we wanted you to be a better person, you
Because
know? And
yeah, I mean that those rules were significant in crafting us.
they
Were
were there for a reason,
yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, when we went out
for
in the world,
safety. We were protecting you.
that's it. That's it. It was
And
protection.
now we're shit for doing that.
Yeah.
And you have
Yeah.
the audacity to look at us and be like, you traumatized me. Really?
Well, if you want to change control, you want to shift control away from the parent, make sure that you have the child sign on that the rules are bad, that the rules aren't there to protect, that the rules are just there to make life harder, that the rules are there to clip their wings, the rules are there to create a situation where the boundaries are become so impossible to meet, and then you change that whole culture about the rules, and then they sign on to the other person that doesn't have the rules, who now cleverly inserts their own rules, but they don't see it coming, and they don't even have the protection of the parent overlooking now, because they have now fully signed away from them and gone on to signed on to the new set of rules they don't see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's dumbfounding to watch this happen, and
Mm-hmm.
and to experience the world as we know it right now. And I don't know, can you walk it back? Do you think you can walk this back?
No, I don't. I
Yeah.
think it's to become, us boomers we're sitting here saying it's the FAFO. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
Right.
fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
See where it gets you.
Yeah.
You're going to realize that we weren't that bad. You're going to
Right.
realize that everything we did for you.
Right.
You're going to understand that you were our first priority. But go
Right.
ahead, let us know,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
that's what it's come to.
I think it's true. I think like I said, we removed all the foundational elements of what made a
Mm-hmm.
unit work.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the hierarchy, even,
Mm-hmm.
right, where
Mm-hmm.
the hierarchy isn't respected anymore. There's no respect for it, even when it comes to like the different positions of the children in the family, the older children having more responsibility for the
Right.
younger children, and then
Mm-hmm.
the younger children ultimately having more responsibility for the parents as a result of later stage parenting.
Mm-hmm.
That hierarchy is even upside down.
Non-existent. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, how do you create a workable environment out of shit, which is what it is.
Yeah,
Honestly.
pretty
I mean,
much.
it's just and you need it tears your heart out when you see in your position young kids who could have so much potential, wasting it on their phones continuously. They cannot put these phones down. It's like
They can't function without them.
yeah, they made it so impossible to
Mm-hmm.
function without them, even in the
I
school.
remember one instance when my husband had grounded one of the daughters, and we had gone out to dinner, and when he grounded her, he took her phone. That's all he did, was he took her phone. And we were at dinner, and we're not supposed to have any, we don't have any phones at dinner. And I thought she was going to chew her fingers off. She didn't know what to do with her hands
Yeah.
because he had taken her fingers. I think she's probably about 14 or 15 at the time. And I'll never forget that. And I'm like, can you please get your hands out of your mouth? And then she would, but then they'd go right. She didn't know what to do. And this was probably 10 years ago, 13 years ago. So that's where it started. When we
Right.
started giving these young kids phones
Yeah.
and access to things that they shouldn't have access to. We need
The,
to go back to the old time encyclopedias. Remember the old time encyclopedias with the books? We
yeah.
need to go back to paper and pencil. We need to go back, which in this world we live in, we're never going to do that.
We're gonna
But
do
that was the good time. Like that was the best time. That was the way we taught our kids. And that's how they need to learn. They
Yeah.
don't need access to everything. That took effort to find.
The
These
secret-
phones don't take any effort. It
Well, yeah.
doesn't take a brain cell. A 2-year-old can turn a cell phone on.
Easy, 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 as opposed to effort.
Convenient. All convenience.
Yeah.
We live in a world of convenience. It used to be in a world where you didn't get to go to McDonald's unless it was football practice or cheerleading practice and you were going to be, you were going to be out. You were at home, you came home from school, you played outside, you did your homework, you had a routine. We
Right.
don't have routines anymore.
No.
Kids are eating breakfast, lunch, or breakfast and dinner in the car.
Yeah.
They're on the go 24/7.
Yeah. They definitely are. I mean, it is really amazing to see how these kids are living today. And it just reminds me of this old movie that my mom had shared with me one time where it was, I guess, one of those sci-fi type things, but there was just a box and there was a head coming out of the box, and that's all the humanity was, this head coming out of the box. And you turn around, you look, you knew everything in sight, but you didn't need the rest of the body because your head was basically
Mhm.
on a box anyway. So it was like,
Mhm.
it's really crazy that we remember how much fun it was to run outside and play when we were young. Oh my God,
We couldn't wait. We couldn't wait to get out of school so we could go home and play with the kids in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Now you drive through a neighborhood, you see nobody.
You see nobody.
You don't even see adults outside.
Nope.
Nobody is outside. Why do
I
we
know.
even have porches anymore? Because nobody sits on their porch. Nobody interacts. Half the people in the neighborhood don't even know their neighbors.
Yeah, they don't, and they don't want to.
No, and you're right. They
'Cause
don't want to.
It may cause them to have to get away from their phones for 2 minutes.
Mhm. They might have to actually have a conversation with someone. Mhm.
Really true.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know what to say. I mean, it's definitely not good. And all in the pursuit of evolution, to evolve society, and we're evolving backwards. I think we're definitely evolving backwards.
We're going the wrong way. We definitely are.
Yeah, if you ever want to create a workforce, we're creating, the workforce because all they're going to do is they're not going to have one of their own unique thoughts. They're not going to even have space to create a unique thought, a unique idea, they
don't have the imagination to do that.
They don't have the imagination. Creativity required quiet and imagination. It required you to actually actively think.
Mhm.
And they don't have. But you'll damn well see that the people that do will pull ahead. The people, you have to think about it. And this is a whole other thing. I'm going to be accused of being a conspiracy theorist. But, the elitists are going to always have the imagination. You notice the
They're going to be
elitists,
successful. Yeah,
the
it
elitists
will be.
yeah, don't allow their kids to have computers when they're little. They're sending their kids to these Waldorf schools, and where they're not allowed to use computers during the day. And they would ask, well, why do you think they're doing that? Because they're creating the workforce of the future after your kids, and and making them sicker through the food while their kids are enjoying the benefits of life. And so if you can't see that, then no, yeah, I feel bad for you because you're.
But then it comes back to the parent is the only one that can change that.
Yeah. Yeah.
because the grandparents aren't allowed to change it
No.
because we're the bad people.
You are the bad people because you
So
expect.
we're just chasing our tail around the mulberry bush, right? Around it. That's all we're doing. And nobody's winning here. Nobody's coming out ahead if we can't fix
No.
these
No.
families that need the help.
No, and you know, it's interesting too is, you know, I know a number of therapists who, you know, it's this craziest thing. Therapists and pastors who have this estrangement going on in their own homes, and they won't say anything because they don't know how to handle it. They themselves are having these issues, and if they bring it up, then their credibility gets lost with their peers, and they're worried about being bullied by their peers for saying anything.
I
Now,
get a lot of feedback from teachers and school administration on my platform, and they all always thank me for speaking up. Why am I the only one? Why are we afraid to say anything? Why does standing up for yourself and voicing your opinion make you a bad person?
because we live in
Somebody
a
has to
world,
say it.
yeah, but we live in a world that they don't want
Oh,
any.
you're shunned. You're
Yeah.
shunned. Oh,
Have
you're
you seen
terrible.
my comment section?
Yeah. How dare you say that? How dare you? This is reality. We don't live in reality anymore.
There's no
That's
space
ridiculous.
there's no space
We
for-
need to speak up. We need to have a voice. It can't just be one person. Not one person can make a change. We have to have that village. We have to work together to make a change. And we can't make a change by it just being one person. But everybody's so afraid that they're going to lose this or they're going to lose that or they're going to be, the reputation that's going to go this way. You need to have a voice. You need to be independent. You need to stand up for yourself. And if you don't, nobody's going to. And nothing's going to change.
And you're exactly right. And they don't want anything to change, which is why they're this selfish, because it forces them out of their comfort zone. They want this to be the right way, but maybe they're wrong and they don't want to see that because they've been told they're right. So they must be right. And that's just the way it is. But I mean, the hate can be severe. I'm I can only imagine your comment section. I get like the comments are really, really wild, and like people even come up to me, like other creators, like, man, you really get a lot of hate. Well, because I don't pull any punches. I just say it. I just say it. I'm not frightened of these people, and anytime you buck the system, is a problem, which is why I love that you ended up with Tamron Hall, because God bless her, she was willing to have the conversation and to share the insight, and having you on, you're so well spoken, you have a lot of information. Oh no, you're personable, you come, you're very real.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
No, it's true. So it's I was like thrilled to see that for everybody involved in this situation, because you're on the ground. You're on the ground, and the people on the ground have the most knowledge. You're on the ground.
Thank you. But a lot of people don't handle that very well. A lot of people don't handle the truth. They don't like reality. They don't want to be told what is going to happen, and then they stand back and they see it happen.
Right.
I had a parent one day tell me, my kid will never do that. It was an infant, and my kid will never act that way. My kid will never do that. Well, guess what? I was around to see it. And your kid is that kid now that you said 2 years ago wouldn't be your kid.
Right.
You let that happen.
Yeah.
You were the one in control.
Right. 100%.
But people they don't get it. They just don't get it. This world we live in is just like no other that we've ever seen before.
It really is not. It's so different than what we've ever seen before. And that's why I asked the question, do you think we can walk it back? Because, it's
going to take a lot to walk it back and turn it around. And it just can't be the few of us trying.
No.
I don't know what it's going to take to wake people up. I don't know. I don't know that it can be done.
Well, I think that what you said is true, and what I believe is it won't wake up in silence. It's not going to wake up with the silence. And that's the thing I hear. Like, why do you keep talking about it with the silence? Well, because things only grow in silence. The evil or negativity or destruction grows in silence. So you can't be silent. You have to work it every day. If you really want to change the course. And in the estrangement space, I see a lot of parents now coming out where even like a year ago when I started, they weren't, they're very few if they were, and they were just sort of buckling under the weight of the comments, and then it changed. I believe it changed when I first came out with that first video and the explosion happened, and then I started seeing little by little as I kept making the because I wasn't even reading my comments because I figured, oh, dude, but I saw the drip. People started saying,
the ones that are coming at us in our comments are the ones that I feel the sorriest for, because they have no reality. They don't understand. All they want to do is just get back at you for what you said, whether it's the good, bad, or the ugly. They're reaching out just for attention that maybe they didn't get as a child. I don't know. But some of it's crazy, but I feel sorry I feel sorry for them because they're not in touch with reality.
They are not. And then I feel hopeful. I feel helpful when I get, the straggler who is a young person who, reached out to me and said, listen, if I'm going through this and this was real, do I have to forgive my parent? And, if that's a real situation, well, that's not the parent I'm talking about. That's not that parent, right? That parent, well, maybe you really do need to think twice about, or do want to reunite or come back from a stranger. Maybe you do need to have the help that you need to be able to do that to protect
exactly yourself. And that's why we make these videos, and that's why we do. If we can just if I can just help 10 families or 10 children, then I feel like I accomplished something. And that's all I'm on there for. It's just to help that one person who does DM me and says, hey, this is a situation, can you help me? And I would love to help you any way that I can.
Well, I see that in you, and I understand the joy of hearing that you've helped somebody. I understand it, and I think you've helped a lot of people, and I know you're not going to stop helping, and keep up. Doing what you're doing, because you're doing.
This has definitely awoken something inside me that I never thought at 55 years old I'd be doing.
No,
honestly, never.
No, I didn't think I would be doormat mom either. 59 years old. No one wanted to be this, but no one says that. After all your parenting and stuff, like you're going to end up being doormat mom, and but the thing is. I'm from the school that if you turn your back and walk away, you're just adding to the problem. I never want to add to a problem. I want to add to the solution. So long as I can, I will. And I know that with you too. That's so.
As long as you can find a solution that the other side's willing to accept, and that takes communication, which we lack in this world. Also, is we do not know how to communicate. We
don't. And again, it goes back to the fact that they haven't had to really. They think they are. They think they are behind all but they're not. It's not real communication. And if it's not easily solved, and that's.
And I know my generation, I'll get a text message from one of my kids, and then I pick up the phone and I'm like, what did you just say? What did you just mean? Well, that's not what I meant. I'm like, well, that's how it came across in a text message. Don't text me. Call me. I'm your mother.
Right. No. Text me what time I'm supposed to be home from dinner. Text me that the garbage needs to go out.
We're not having this conversation over this text message. No, absolutely not. I texted one of them one time. She sent me something and I texted her. I said, you have exactly 3 minutes to pick that phone up and call your mother right now, or I'm going to pack my suitcase. I'm going to be on your doorstep and we're going to have this discussion because we're not going down this road. And boy, she called me within one and she's like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, and she's like, you took it the wrong way. I said, perfect example why you don't text your mother. You call me.
Yes,
I'm human. I'm not a computer.
exactly.
And we've lost the communication. We don't know how to communicate. We don't.
No, we do not. We do not. And that's, that in itself, they don't think they need it, but they actually do.
That's one of the basic things we need is communication. Communication's the base of everything you do in life.
Yeah, 100%. And they're communicating, but they're communicating by not communicating, right? So that's the thing, and that's causing all these issues.
They don't know how.
They do not.
They don't know how. We've not taught them how.
And they're terrified of doing it because they don't know how. So that's a whole other story. That's a whole other episode.
Yep, sure is.
I think I want to potentially get an expert, and maybe you'll come back to join me
Sure.
on communication, because
Sure.
I think it's
Love
just that's so important. But for right now, we're going to end it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh my God, I'm going to keep watching you and, watching your videos, and
Let me know. I'll come back anytime. Anytime. I have a lot to say.
I know you do.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Take care, Tina. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
She's fantastic. And so I'm going to make sure I link to her TikTok so you guys can watch her as she shares her words of wisdom. She's a smart lady. She has a lot of common sense, which is lacking in this world. And I really think that, my gosh, and more of us need to listen to her wisdom, because it's very helpful. All right, before I go, I'm going to go and share my book again. Here we go, Doormat Mom No More. It's available on Amazon, as you can see. I have an interesting announcement. I'm working on a second book, an offshoot of this, and I also have another surprise coming up, which will be available very soon. And it's something that everybody's been asking for, and it's going to take this stranger to a whole new level. So we'll make that announcement soon. But anyway, read Doormat Mom No More. It is a really great book, and I put my heart and soul in it, and you will realize how large this community is if you do. So that's it for me today. Please, think about what we said here. Think about your parenting. Think about these little ones that are suffering because of how easy we've made this world, because of how we're parenting to the detriment of them. And also how that will ultimately end up in the future as far as adults, what it's going to craft as human beings for our own future and for the future of this nation. So all very important things. So until next time, Doormat Mom No More. I'm Doormat Mom, and I'm saying goodbye and God bless.